Peterson.
Here.
Assemblyman McClellan.
Here.
Assemblyman Knitra.
Here.
Assemblyman Singh.
Here.
Assemblyman Rodriguez.
Here.
Assemblyman Marenko.
Here.
Assemblywoman Drulis.
Here.
Chairman Danielson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, the first bill, I'm going to announce order of the bills. First, we're going to hear and read into the record A6236. Then the bill after that is going to be A6235 involving the regulates motorized vehicle. Anyone coming up to give testimony, I'm going to ask, please keep your comments brief. Try not to repeat others' testimony. Yeah. If you do have testimony in writing, I prefer you give it to us in writing instead of speaking it. And at that, I'm going to ask Les to read into the record A6236. Thank you.
Assembly Bill 6236 requires law enforcement officers to reveal their facial identity during certain public interactions and to present sufficient identification prior to arresting or detaining a person. The committee amended the bill to provide additional exemptions from the requirement that an officer's facial identity be revealed and to remove the requirement that an officer obtain a doctor's note before wearing a mask to prevent the transmission of diseases.
Okay, Michael Turner, Garton Trent Public Affairs, New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police, is opposed. No need to testify. David H. Schreibel, Resistencia en Acción, New Jersey, is in favor. Did you want to testify, Mr. Schrager?
Schrager?
Schrager, David.
Yes.
Did you want to testify? Was that your intent?
Yes.
Over here. Come on. Senator, turn the microphone on. And just remind you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is David Schrager. I'm president of Resistencia en Acción, New Jersey, which is an immigrant rights organization based in Trenton and Princeton. And we support the bill A6236 that instructs that police officers must not be masked. We think this is a good piece of legislation. I think it's better for police enforcement and trust with the community. But we also think that the bill does not go far enough. And although we do support it, we also think that the state of New Jersey must pass the Immigrant Trust Act, because the Immigrant Trust Act, Senate Bill S3672 and Assembly Bill A4987, is legislation that limits the involvement of state and local agencies and law enforcement
Sir,
of federal
we
immigration.
can only talk about the bill on the table.
What's that?
We can only discuss the bill on the table. And I need you to stay focused.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about the Immigration Trust Act right now.
Okay, but we do support that, and we support this bill as well.
So do I.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming to Trenton. Georgianne D'Angelo, Resistance and Action, Resistencia and Action.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah, very good.
Gotcha. All right, she's in favor, your intent to testify. All right, have a seat. Brief on the bill, 3 minutes.
My name is Georgianne D'Angelo. I live in Ewing, and I've been working with Resistencia on the side of my work with the League of Women Voters. I'm involved in both directions, and I have been out. I'm a rapid responder. I've been out, and I've seen these masked men, and there is no way to know who these people are. They are not wearing badges. They will not identify themselves. When I ask them who they are, which department they are from, they just tell me to move back, which I do. We need to know who's enforcing laws. At this point, this has also happened with prosecutor's office investigations. When they are in plain clothes, occasionally somebody who's undercover will wear a mask. Everybody assumes that everybody is ICE now. So we have basically ruined the power of the prosecutor's office investigations. Aside from the mask problem, we also have lots of illegality going on. Small things. License plates taken from one car and put on another car. How do I know? I take pictures of license plates. One day it's on a blue car, the next day it's on a gray car. I don't know, who do I complain to? Can I call the police and say, there's a masked man here and the license plate was on a different car yesterday? Will they respond? I don't think they will. Maybe they will. Let's put it in the bill. Let's be clear. Let's make our state law abiding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Are you available to take questions from the committee?
Sure.
Sure.
What do you mean you need to know who they are?
I think that people who are being dragged off by other people need to know why they're being dragged off.
That's not what I asked. I asked, why do
Why
you
I
need to
need
know
to know?
who they are?
Because I am witnessing what is happening, and in order to witness effectively, I need to know who is doing it. And I ask, I walk right up to these people and I say, can you please identify yourself? And they'll say no. And sometimes
Do you
they've
do
got-
this with the police in
they've
Ewing?
got guns on their hips
Do you do this with
in
the
plain
police?
sight, and there's no identification.
Do you do this with the police in Ewing?
If someone is in a police uniform and gets out of a police car, I have a feeling they're police.
So you're saying, but you said earlier, these people are ICE, correct?
I'm saying that people fear that they are ICE,
Why would they fear that they're ICE?
because that's what ICE does, and we have to forbid it.
Is it possible they fear that they're ICE because they're here illegally and ICE is enforcing our laws? Because we're a law-abiding New Jersey, right?
No, I'm talking about the ICE agents. are
That's
doing
right,
this.
they're here, they're
And it's
enforcing
very
the law,
possible that
right?
there are imposters among
Do
them.
you have any proof of that?
I do not, because I don't know who these people are. They won't tell me. And I asked very nicely. And I'm an old white lady. They should tell me.
Is there any statute that says that they have to tell you personally who they are?
There is a statute with the police that they have to identify themselves, and they do. If they are requested to identify themselves and they do not, it's because there must not be a statute, and we need to make one, that they need to identify themselves.
But why do you want them to identify themselves?
Well, very often, we are in contact with the family afterwards, and they are very concerned about what happened. Why is their wage earner not coming home? And we can say, well, does he look like this? Show a picture. And they'll say yes. And they say, well, we're not sure, but, you know, somebody saw this person being thrown into a vehicle and driven away. But we asked, and we
So
don't
all
know
you're
who did
asking
it.
is that they identify whether they're some form of law enforcement, or are you asking for their personal name?
I'm asking for their division of law enforcement.
Okay, so you're not asking for their name?
No.
You need to identify them
This
individually?
fear of being
So
doxxed.
how does, are you stating that they don't have any identification that they're law enforcement?
That's right, that's what I'm stating. And they're doing law enforcement actions, and that should not be allowed.
Do you call the police when you see that and say there's these folks out there with guns dragging people off, you should come and do something?
You know what? I don't, because I don't trust the police to come.
You don't trust, why don't you trust the police to come?
Because I've seen policemen at these events, these situations that are guarding the ICE agents.
Oh, so you know that they're ICE agents?
Well, in that
Member
case, I
Peterson,
don't.
I'm gonna stop right here.
Yeah,
We're off,
that's enough.
we're kind of going
Yeah,
off
we're
the
moving on.
intent of the
But
bill.
thank you
I
for your
agree.
questions, I appreciate it.
And ma'am, thank you for coming to try and testify.
My pleasure. Well done.
Also from the same organization, Asma El-Huni and Tia Block. Did you want to testify?
Hello,
Hi. Hello.
my name is Asma Alvini. I am lead organizer of Resistencia en Acción, New Jersey. Some context. Before I do, I'd like to remind everybody we are on Lenape territory, and this country has never made our wrongs right. So let's start off there. Number one, being in this country undocumented is not a criminal offense. It's civil. We have people, which I'm going to call thugs, ICE agents, coming into our community, ripping our families apart. We've seen it with our own eyes. They do not have judicial warrants. They are lying to families to get them out of their homes. How do I know, you must ask? Because I've been there. I'm a rapid responder. I was actually arrested by a police officer. Even though there is currently a directive in place, that directive is not strong enough. And I'm here to say why it's not strong enough. It is not strong enough because every police department does not know what it means to not collaborate with ICE. When we have something like the Immigrant Trust Act, we'll ensure that every single police department in this state is trained.
Yeah, ma'am, I agree with Member Peterson. Talk the
My
specifics
position
of
on
the
this
bill.
particular bill, our position as an organization is we support this bill, but conditional, because it doesn't go far enough. You heard from one of my rapid responders. When we go out, we constantly see people, officers, we don't know whether they're police, because they're in regular clothes, they are covering their faces. Now, if it's the police department, we would leave them alone. We'd still observe, we'd leave them alone. But if it's Immigration Customs Enforcement, because they break the law of this country, we are constantly having to tell people, these are your rights that they are not following. Because as a country, we must uphold the rights that every single person has, and we're not going to allow them to break those in front of our faces. So yes, we support this bill. We want officers not to cover their faces so we don't have to confuse, because we know for sure ICE has been coming out, covering their faces, ashamed. Why? Because they break the law, Mr. Eric Peterson. They break the law that you're supposed to uphold. And so yes, we support this bill. We'd love for the fact that police officers, it would be great if they also do not come in unmarked cars, because that's also very hard and terrifying, and people being stopped by ICE in unmarked cars, and they have to stop because they think they're being stopped by police officers as well. So yes, we support this bill, but it's conditional, y'all. We need the ITA. Every single one of you, or the majority of you,
We're not
are in
talking
support
about
of
it.
it.
We're
I
not
know,
gonna
but
talk
it's
about it
connected.
now.
It is connected. It is connected. We are
I
reading
understand it's
about
connected, that's why we
Yes.
process these
So
bills,
yes.
like, we're not talking about it.
Yes, so
I'm
yes,
sorry,
we
ma'am.
support this bill. We're waking up 5:30 in the morning, seeing people covering their faces, not knowing if they're police or not. But what would really help us is if all of you actually push for the ITA. This is not going far enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
I
coming.
have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
All right, are you available for questions?
Yes, I am.
All right.
You started off your testimony, just had one question. You started off your testimony by saying we were all sitting on Lenape
That
Lane.
is correct.
What happened to the Lenape?
They were, some of them were murdered. Some of them were erased from their heritage. By the way, thank you for that question, because I'd
Hey,
like to remind you.
stop.
Yes.
Stop.
Yes.
Last
Yes.
time. We're not talking about the Lenny in,
But I would like to
Americans
just
here.
say
We're
the Lenny
talking
peoples-
about this bill, I'm not gonna tell you
Yes,
again.
okay, that's fine. Yep.
Okay,
Stay
if
on
I
the bill.
if I have a question I can't ask, then I can't ask. I was simply going to make a correlation to what's happening with this country,
Okay.
with
Yes.
illegal immigration right now.
Yeah, and there is a correlation because the very people we're trying to deport
Ma'am.
are actually indigenous to this land.
Ma'am, you're done.
Yes, yep,
You're
I just
done.
wanted to say that. Thank you so much.
All right, next up is Madison Linton, New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice.
I was gonna testify next. You called Tia Block.
Excuse me?
You called up Tia Block to testify next. I'm also with Resistencia, but I want to testify
All right,
separately.
coming up together or by yourself?
By myself.
And what is your name?
My name's Tia Block.
Tia Block.
I work for the Department of State.
It's a cool sounding name, Bob.
Thank you. I
Tia Block.
appreciate it. Tia Block.
Tia Block. All right.
I work for the Department of State within the New Jersey State Museum. I'm a rapid responder for Resistencia, and I want to believe we're united by a common goal here, which is public safety. So I'm in full support of this bill. I think it's exactly what we need right now, especially at a time where there are dangerous masked men terrorizing our communities. And I know you want us to refrain from speaking about the ITA, and I do want to emphasize that it is directly connected, and it is hard to separate these issues. Because the reason mass police are unsafe is because of ICE. I want to focus by talking about anonymity and policing and community. You can't have community with anonymous policing. That's just not how community works. When I walk into work every single day, I say hi to the guards. They know my name. I know their name. That's community. I know my coworkers' names. I know the people I buy food from every single day. The immigrant families that make my lunch every single day. I know them. I know their faces. They know mine. What the hell is a police, forget my language, but what is a police officer who's wearing a mask doing in our community? He's not a part of it. He doesn't want to be a part of it. He's hiding himself. He's blocking himself from connecting. That's not humanity. And it's making people feel extremely unsafe, and they have every reason to feel unsafe. I work within the State Museum, and I've had teachers come up to me. It's as if we were offering visiting lectures instead of having their children come on to field trips to the museum, because they're afraid because of the demographic that those children belong to. They don't want to take them to a museum because the children are scared, their families are scared, and they're worried about what will happen in public institutions. We need to make public institutions safer. We need to make our policing safer. And again, I'm really trying not to get too hard into talking about the ITA. I need to emphasize that that needs your support and is part of a network of things that is going to make our community safer. These children can't go on field trips because they live in fear of masked men taking them away, taking their parents away. And if an immigrant child or anybody sees a masked man in their neighborhood, they can only believe that it is the type of masked man that tears families apart. They don't know what kind it is. They just see maybe a plain clothes guy wearing a mask who's banging on their door. You don't know what that is. There's no way to know what that is. That's not community. That's not safety. Now, if you believe in the law, so do I. ICE violates the law. If you believe in civil rights, as I do, ICE violates those. And if you believe in peace, safety, and community, ICE will always be a violation of that. If people are afraid that police are ICE, people are living in fear in their own homes. We can't have that. We can't have ICE here either. That's the most important thing to me. And I
Tia Block.
Yes.
Time's up. Anyone have any questions for this person?
If somebody breaks into your house, are they a member of your family?
No.
I don't think people who came here illegally and broke our laws to get into this country are a member of the community.
I want to also emphasize the fact that from federal leaders, they've said that they don't target people based off of their legal status. They target based off of ethnicity. There's no way to know somebody's legal status when they're walking down the street. They don't have a big glowing sign above their head that says legal.
All right, I'm gonna stop you there. We're all, Member Penicio, you're not on the bill, and neither you're, I'm gonna bid you farewell. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a racist argument, you have to emphasize that.
Ain't that right?
Okay, next, Fred Weed, New Jersey Consortium for Immigration, Immigrant Children, is in favor, no need to testify. Amy Kachalia, ACLU, New Jersey, in favor, no need to testify. Shareya Johnson, New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, is in favor, no need to testify. Reverend Charles Laughlin, Unitarian Universalist, Faith Action, New Jersey, is in favor, no need to testify. Reverend Sarah Lilia, I'm pronouncing it right, Lilia, New Jersey Coalition for Religious Leaders, in favor, no need to testify. New
You
Jersey
said Madison.
Public
Madison is here.
Defender.
Sorry, you called Madison after T Block. She's here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. New Jersey Office of Public Defender, New Jersey Office of Public Defender is in favor, no need to testify. David Sayre, in favor, no need to testify. And ma'am, who did I call who's not here?
Madison.
Madison Linton.
What?
Madison Linton.
Do we have that? Yeah,
After T Block.
Before T.
Oh, before T Block. Okay.
I don't see a slip. Sorry.
I did submit one and you did call my name.
You all heard me call, you heard me not say it?
No, we heard you say.
I didn't say what you heard me say? All right, we got it. All right, come on up. Madison Linton, for New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. I didn't mean to make you disappear.
No worries.
You have 3 minutes, starting right now.
Thank you.
Please stay on the bill.
Will do, thank you. First, I want to thank Chairman Danielson, Vice Chair Relly, and each member of the Public Safety and Preparedness Committee for the opportunities to submit comment. My name is Madison Linton. I serve as the Policy and Research Associate at the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. Together, we are the state's largest immigration coalition in the state. And together with over 60 member organizations, we fight for policies that empower and protect immigrants. Our membership comprises direct service organizations, labor groups, faith and community organizations, grassroots organizations, policy, civil rights organizations. Our advocacy priorities are member-derived and driven and reflect the lived community and institutional expertise of our membership. As such, we are well positioned to deliver the following testimony about A6236, the Law Enforcement Protection Act, while simultaneously urging for the passage of A4987, the Immigrant Trust Act. In the past year, New Jersey's immigrant communities have experienced an unprecedented escalation of federal enforcement actions. Armed ICE agents have conducted raids in every corner of the state, whether these be large-scale raids at warehouses or individual kidnappings that are swept under the rug of the news cycle. Families fear dropping their children off at school, seeking medical care, and trusting that their rights will be protected when reporting a crime. Concealing the identity of officers contributes to the widespread fear and confusion that ICE perpetuates and furthers their agency's culture of rogue lawlessness and immunity from justice. The primary issue is safeguards that would regulate how state and local actors interact with federal immigration enforcement. A6236 and its predecessor, A5956, would address some of the accountability concerns that the public has about masked agents, and importantly would limit cases of law enforcement official impersonation. I also just want to touch on the fact in terms of the differences between the original bill, A5956 and the newly introduced bill, A6236. It does advance some degree of transparency within public safety and is a first step in addressing the impersonation of officers. It sends a clear message that our communities are under attack and are not open to prowling masked agents nor bad actors seeking to terrorize our communities. However, the similar No Secret Police Act in California has already triggered noncompliance from federal officers and has invited federal litigation. Other states have drafted similar legislation, but with significantly scaled back regulations that would send a mixed message to the public about just how much transparency these proposals would advance. The differences between A6236 and A5956 also mean that without the originally proposed stiff
Ms.
criminal...
Lincoln, your time is up. I'll give you 10 extra seconds.
Thank you so much. Also mean that without the original proposed stiff criminal penalties, the bill will do little to discourage bad actors from impersonating local, state, or federal officers.
All right, Ms. Lincoln, I want to thank you. You clearly are reading. I would suggest you give your written testimony to the board so we could have a post-committee meeting read of it, all right?
All right.
Did anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming to training.
Thank you.
Okay. Do members of the committee have any comments? Sure. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Clearly, we understand where we are as a nation in terms of ICE deportations and what that has caused in our communities. It is something that is not only affecting undocumented communities. People from all communities are fearful now because we don't know who is knocking on our doors. The FBI has put out a statement as of October on the importance of tracking some of these deportations because we all know that there are bad actors impersonating ICE agents and or police officers to do criminal activity, rape, kidnapping, robbery, etc. And while clearly I stand for fair deportations, this bill is not only about undocumented people, it is about the safety of not only our officers, but the public that they are protecting and serving. We cannot live in a nation where you don't know who is coming to your car window or to your door in your home. We've seen this in Burlington County, where unidentified officers came to a person's door and basically almost shut it down with the attempt to get in because they felt that they were lying through the ring. This is not what America is about. This bill, while it is not perfect, it is a step in a direction where America should go back to, where we work so hard on programs like community policing, which are set forth to increase and better relationships between community and law enforcement. This is a step in that direction so that people feel safe when they are confronted by a person in uniform, or have the ability to ask that person if they are not in full uniform for their identification and to reveal their face. Obviously, I am in support of this bill, and I thank all of those who have come forth, all of the law enforcement organizations who have chimed in to make the bill better, because we understand that there are instances where law enforcement should and must wear masks. But in the everyday routine, an American, period, should be able to ask who they're being interrogated by. And so I thank you, Chairman, and the rest of you for supporting this bill.
Chairman, thank you for posting this bill, and thank you to the legislators that put forth this bill. A couple of points as I was sitting here. First off, I personally don't think any human is an ego, so I want to make sure that's clear.
Thank you.
Second of all, I grew up watching Saturday cartoons and TV, and I know Wayne, he's a state trooper back there representing them, but the good guys never wore masks. Law enforcement, they had that big star on their chest because they were doing the right things. There was no need for masks. Just like bad things happen in the cover of darkness, and light brings out dark. The good guys know what they're doing, they know what they're doing correctly. This bill addresses that and prevents the bad guys and bad apples from preventing the good guys getting back home safely to their families after doing a good job. Third point is, and I tie this to the Lenape Nation comment, is the correlation that I know we sit on Lenape land, and it should be a very good reminder to all of us that this country, we have gotten it wrong before. So it doesn't surprise us if we might be wrong this time. So we should do, and allow our citizens the ability to protest. It shouldn't take I know she's a young lady in the crowd going up to police officers, or she doesn't know they're police officers or not, deny her the ability to be able to do that. Because we are a nation built on protest by our residents, or if not, we'd be still paying a T-tax. And lastly, I think this is a great reflection of what this legislature can do in sending a message. And New Jersey does not agree with the current bad situation that we're putting law-abiding tenants trying to just chase the American dream. So with that, I support this bill greatly. Chairman, thank you for putting it up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the first questions we have to ask is why is ICE here in the first place? ICE is here because there's 900,000 illegal immigrants in New Jersey. It's nothing short of an invasion. We did a report that shows that in our state budget, it's costing us over $7 billion a year in this state. Now that all said, the irony, and for the groups that were here testifying earlier, you shouldn't be happy about this legislation either, because it doesn't accomplish any of your goals. Every exception that's written in this bill, if you read the legislation, and then if you read the amendments that came out today, make it completely feckless. It accomplishes nothing. Everything that you are upset about, this bill does not accomplish. Let's say you're upset about ICE and you're upset about ICE raids. All they need, based on this bill, is a supervisor to say that masks are required for that operation. They've added in, if it's a tactical operation, that masks can be required. The bill says, every law enforcement officer shall provide sufficient identification prior to detaining or arresting an individual, but that it shall not apply to a law enforcement officer when the release of sufficient identification may compromise the integrity of an authorized investigation. That discretion is going to be left up to law enforcement. A supervisor determines stealth is necessary. That determination is going to be left up to law enforcement. Or a law enforcement officer reasonably believes that the officer's personal safety is at risk. And I heard a lot of the groups talk about personal safety, so let's talk about personal safety for law enforcement. Court records have shown a 25% rise in charges for assaults against federal officers this year compared with last year. 15 people were charged after the July 4th plot to lure ICE agents out of Alvarado, Texas's detention center, where they were then fired upon. Officers were being punched on patrol. There was an officer dragged by a car in California, and in Nebraska, an agent was slammed to the ground and hospitalized. A sniper in Texas killed 2 detainees at an ICE detention center while targeting federal agents. Clearly, there is reasonable belief that the officer's personal safety is at risk, and these facts show that. This bill will accomplish nothing. It's simply pandering to everyone who testified here, everyone who's clapping all the time, and we may be on different sides of how we view immigration and illegal immigration, but what you all do need to understand is all this bill does is pander to you. It accomplishes absolutely nothing.
I'd love to respond to some of those comments.
You don't get to respond to
Order.
any comment.
I run the meeting. You will maintain order. All right, we had missed a slip. I just want to read it for the record. Ali Azhar from M. Gage is in favor and no need to testify.
Mr. Chairman, can you make the comment?
Yeah.
Thank you. I am an immigrant. I immigrated in '99. I was 14 years old. I can just tell you the recent experience of whatever the immigration policy is and enforcement that came with the federal government, there are effects of that enforcement and the policy that is coming down to communities of color, immigrant communities. Myself, a citizen, my family, we're not undocumented, but there are impact of this happening. I know that you're saying about the illegal immigrants, we say it's undocumented because as my colleague pointed out,
Yes, thank
human
you.
beings cannot be
That's
illegal,
right,
it's
that's
not a
right.
criminal offense. But recently I came back from India, November 24th, at the JFK airport with my 10-month-old saddled to me. The Port Authority, the airport authority officer made a decision that I need to be checked again about my identity. I got pulled out to the side. I sat there in a big room, about 40 plus rooms, 40 plus people there, browns, you got Asians, you got black, you got Hispanics, not a single white person in that whole room that was pulled out for rechecking of the identity. I know there's a whole immigration debate going on. That humiliation that I suffered with my 10-month-old sitting there, whole time, nobody ever called me to ask a single question about who I was, anything to interrogate, investigate. That's the big line that's being used. 15 minutes later, a lady comes to me, gives me a slip and says, "Sir, you're good to go." I said, "What happened?" No questions asked. What happened? Like, well, the officer thought that maybe you were trying to impersonate somebody else. Just that, mismatch. That's the word they use, mismatch of the name. So, well, how do you know that's real? You didn't ask me anything. We checked. My dad now wants to go to India for the December break, and now he's not going. He's afraid when he comes back, if he's going to get pulled to the side. He's a U.S. citizen. What's happening is, in the community, you ask, why do you have to worry about it if you are not undocumented? Why do you have to worry about it? The problem is the humiliation, the suffering that you're going to have, the stress you're going to have, that somebody's going to knock on your door, drag you out before you even have any opportunity to explain yourself, defend yourself, show your identification. They can really pluck you out of the street and put you in a van, and now you have to figure out how many hours away the detention center is, and then try to present them your citizenship papers and so on. That's the reality. I know some of my colleagues don't think that that's happening, it's only after undocumented, but the problem is when you catch that, when you put a that big a net out, indiscriminate catching of people, and you're going based on your hunch, and this person looks like that and that, you're gonna catch a lot of citizens too.
Yeah.
That fear is real in our communities. It came in Burlington Township, where supposedly, we don't know this, so I'm not going to say it was ICE agents, masked men came in on a private property, knocking on a door, harassing the person to open the door who wasn't even in the house. I mean, that could be anybody's house, but it's not going to be, as I think some people did point out, there's no glowing something on your head that says you're undocumented and you're a citizen. What they're going by is ethnicity.
Yeah.
They're going by the likelihood. I'm a mathematician. That likelihood is going to catch a lot of people like me and my kids. So the fear is real. More humanistic approach to this is much needed. There's a job immigration enforcement has to do in terms of securing the borders and immigration, but I think we cannot take it light that what's happening at the national level is not compromising our rights of our citizens.
Assemblyman, I appreciate that tremendously, and I would never diminish your lived experience, and that's horrible that you have to go through that, and we certainly shouldn't be racially profiling anyone or causing any law-abiding citizen to live in fear. If you're a criminal, I think you should live in fear. If you murdered someone, you should live in fear you're going to get arrested. If you broke our laws, you stole something, you should live in fear that you're going to get caught. But you certainly should not ever be racially profiled. And I listened to every word you said because I respect you, I respect Assemblyman Rodriguez, Assemblyman Marenko. But what you said, no part of that actually I think is addressed by this piece of legislation. Every single thing that you said that I listened to intently, and I hear where you're coming from on that. This legislation will not fix any of that. If you're talking about agents, whoever they may be, coming to a private property and arresting someone, based on the language in this bill, their supervisor might have deemed masks necessary. They might deem, because of the operational components, that their safety is at risk, or just because of general sentiment against law enforcement. Or they could have just deemed it a tactical operation. So we could have a different debate about all the merits of everything you said, but again, I would never diminish, your lived experience. But this bill does not address any, if I agreed with every single thing that you just said, and I said we need to fix everything you just said, this bill does nothing to change any of that. And that's the only point that I'm trying to bring up today.
Mr. Chair?
Member Peterson, I'm just going to stay on the bill unless you want to bring up your bill, which is nearly identical, the A2574. Are you going to talk about your near identical bill, 2574, or this bill? We're going to stay on this one. A2574 does almost entirely exactly the same thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
A2574.
Is it on the agenda for today?
No, that's why I'm saying we're not going to talk about, I was considering merging the two bills because Mr. Peterson's bill is nearly identical.
I don't have a bill.
A2574. I'll go on lunch right.
I don't think I've been on a long time.
Okay, well, so we'll stay on this bill.
Let me say, I don't.
A25. I have personal notes here.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Would you like to speak on the bill?
I would. So from this conversation we've had today, what I gathered is that the real issue that was complained about here was that seemingly there is no identification of which law enforcement these folks are. That they, quote unquote, don't know who they are, although they kept on referring to them as ICE. So I'm not sure how this bill actually changes that by having no masking, because it wouldn't identify what law enforcement division they are from. Now, that being said, what is the real reason that somebody would want to, the person kept on saying, I need to know who they are. And what they really are saying is that they want to know that person's name so they can dox them and their family.
No.
And then try to intimidate them and their family, which is what someone, Kenesha was talking about, these incidents that are going on. The idea is that if they can know who these people are personally, they can then intimidate them to not want to do these jobs and not follow the enforcement of law. I find it ironic that they want to talk about enforcing the law, but they don't want to enforce all the laws. They don't want to enforce the immigration laws. We have immigration laws. They should be enforced. You may not like how they're enforced, but if they're enforced, then it's all done according to the law. I've yet to hear anybody say anything specific other than just make general accusations that ICE is breaking the law.
They are.
You might not like the way they're enforcing the law, but that doesn't mean they're violating the law. I even heard somebody make up his own law, set out some of what they perceive to be the law that isn't the law. So this is just a tactic to try to intimidate law enforcement. What will it be next? You know, these are the kind of things that law enforcement had to deal with like the mafia, when they didn't want enforcement of the laws. Intimidation. Intimidation of law enforcement. When you allow intimidation of law enforcement, then none of us are safe. None of us are safe. Because if we do that, if we allow this to happen, none of us are safe. Because there's all kinds of groups that want different things. So where does it stop? Now, if you have issues about the way that law enforcement is proceeding, then we have a process. This country was founded on a process. And that process is that there are a legislative body. And those legislative bodies make law. This is federal law. If this is something that you think is being done in a wrong way, then there's a process. There's a process to change the law. The idea isn't that you do it through intimidation of law enforcement. You don't do it through intimidation. You don't do it through trying to interrupt law enforcement doing their duty. You do it through our process. That's how we do it here in the United States. That's how we do it in this country for over 250 years. And to change that, we will get chaos. And we will delve into chaos.
This is
And none of
chaos.
us will be safe.
This is chaos.
So I'm against this bill. The intent isn't, all the other reasons, they're just reasons. The real intent is to try to intimidate law enforcement from performing their jobs. And if we go down this road and allow those who want to use intimidation to get what they want and not the process that our country is founded on, then we won't have a country that is peaceful and prosperous. We won't have security. So I'm a hard no.
Thank you. So as I sit here and think about what elements I want to talk about, but I'm going to start with the basics. There's a reason why nations have flags. Nations have uniforms and patches and badges and IDs and emblems and icons for one purpose, for identification. And in some cases, when you don't have that, you're considered a terrorist, a spy, punishable sometimes by death. There's a reason why from the beginning of the history of man, we have identification. And it worries me when an argument is made that now it's about intimidating law enforcement, who are the most heavily armed and funded organizations. And yeah, I don't have a problem with any law being enforced, but our country is built on the how and the fair and the law. And I had the remarkably disruptive occasion of a half a dozen times witnessing ICE myself and having one of my children screaming in the phone to me. And I found myself racing in my car half a dozen times to the same neighborhood to see for myself, and I saw for myself. And let me tell you, these son of bitches are not in uniform. They don't have flags. They don't have patches, icons. They have armored vests, sometimes in green color, sometimes not. Very large caliber firearms, sometimes helmets. Sometimes they're just in tennis sneakers and a sweater. I saw it firsthand, a small sedan and or a van unloading like it was a circus. And I witnessed firsthand the foundation of the American law, our Constitution, specifically that under the Fourth Amendment, being violated. Despite the fact, I'm here for your applause, you're going to maintain order. Specifically the Fourth Amendment, then the Fifth Amendment, then the Sixth Amendment. And I'm not a constitutional scholar, but I knew enough that they went beyond the implied consent. They ignored the no trespassing. They ignored the fact they didn't have probable cause, well-grounded suspicion. They didn't even have enough for a Terry stop. They ignored the demands after trespass was declared and exhausted. Now, I live in a town that's 30% of the population was born in India. Of the Latino population, I have only 8%. And of the Caucasians, it's about 26, 27%, which includes my Ukrainians, my Hungarians, my Poles. 0% of the ICE encounters involve people of Caucasian. 0% happen with those who have heritage from India. 100% was Latino. Okay, let's say that's a coincidence, but you can't take what I saw as a coincidence. Detainment, arrest. I have a couple, actually I'll talk about two families. The first family, the mother and father were arrested. Father was undocumented. He's been held for 3.5 years in Texas. The mother, who is a U.S. citizen, born U.S. citizen, took her 2.5 weeks to get out. A U.S. citizen. So you want to talk about how dangerous this is. She owns lots of properties and 2 large trucking companies, and her children are in school with my children. Law-abiding, been here decades, long before I had a driver's license. That's a problem. Now, there was excessive force used. There was abuse of power under the color of law. There was all the building blocks to a successful lawsuit, which is not possible because they did it nameless, without any identification. You can't file a lawsuit under Section 1983 and even go after their qualified immunity. There was no recourse. They were in jail for a long time, and 2 weeks, 2 minutes in jail is a lifetime. While your underage children are home alone, have to figure out how to get to high school. I could figure out, how do I get these kids food? You know, transportation, some adult supervision. And the second family comes a little closer to home for me. My daughter is in a relationship, and thank God, thanks to her, I am now announcing that I'm going to be a grandfather. A little bit about it, and this place of business that I personally observe ICE. They come in, they look different, but there's no identification. And when I go toe to toe with them, it's very intimidating even for me. And they don't care about the Constitution of the United States. They clearly don't. It's scary. So what do? I call the municipal police. I call the director personally. I call the county prosecutor. I call Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office. They know nothing about it. I say, get down here, because I can't prove that these are people of a legitimate law enforcement agency. I have to assume they are armed thugs.
Yeah.
And I have to defend myself at some point. It's going to get ugly. You talk about intimidation. It's not intimidation on law enforcement. Just bystanders, a convenience store. And now knowing that, you know, it's all fun and games until your family gets affected, right?
Yes.
I'm not like that. This is well before the announcement of my grandchild. But now I know I have a grandchild coming who's going to spend a lot of time in these houses and these places of business, and going to depend on these beautiful, hardworking, American loyal residents. And some are born American citizens. And I disagree with any opinion saying that this is not going to be of any usefulness. No, it's not going to fix the problem. I agree with that portion. But it will tell you who they're not. It will tell you you're not Franklin Township's police. They're going to tell you they're not the Somerset County or Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office. It's going to tell you they're not the state police.
That's right.
And at some point, I know state police, the greatest organization in the country, New Jersey State Police. If I say, are you a New Jersey trooper? I know they're going to say, I'm a New Jersey trooper. You know, they're going to identify something. These ICE agents identified nothing.
That's right.
I have to assume they're illegal imposters that
right.
are heavily armed, ready to take my family away.
That's right.
And my family is your family.
That's right.
So, if I can't tell necessarily who they are, but at least I can tell who they're not. And that's better than where we are yesterday,
right.
where we're going today with this bill. And I'd like to thank the work on anyone who wrote a similar bill, especially those who are almost absolutely painfully identical that require any two of the following: ID, uniform, patch, badge, permanent markings on a car, which you do not have right now.
Yes.
God save the Latino community and all our immigrant communities,
Yes.
and God save the United States, starting with the Constitution, that
Yes.
these ICE officers are clearly, comfortably, without hesitation violating.
That's right. Yes. Woo.
With that, I will entertain a motion. Member Pearson, would you mind make a motion in respect to your identical bill?
My bill says that the government can't make you wear a mask, which is quite different than telling people they can't wear a mask.
Your bill requires any two of the following requirements: badge, uniform, patch, permanent markings, or ID, which basically in gist is identical to this bill. Your bill, actually, your bill is far.
See which one you're.
Your bill's far more reaching because it doesn't have the limitations of this bill. You should know, there's limitations of this bill.
Mr. Chairman, I said earlier.
It's prior to
that it
detainment
seems
and
to me
arrest. Your
that
bill
they
does not
want-
have that. It's far more
It
reaching.
seems to me that these folks, and you said it yourself, there's no identification of who they are as far as law enforcement goes. That's not what this bill does. You're telling them they can't wear a mask, which has nothing to do with identifying which branch of law enforcement they are.
It does not, you're right.
And so I don't know what relevance that, if you think that that's important, then there should introduce a bill that says that law enforcement has to have what branch of law enforcement they're representing when they are.
It's not that. This bill is requiring identification and a lack of obscuring your identity, which includes a mask. Your bill require, only during or prior to a detention or an arrest. Your bill doesn't have the requirement, which means 100% of the time, where this is very select period of time. And the public should know that difference. Your bill is all encompassing, anytime, even in the office, on the way to work, talking to, a consensual encounter, a Terry stop, a traffic stop. Our bill doesn't do that. So, I mean, I'm moving the bill as is, but I would have liked to merge the two bills just to painfully identical. And that's why I'm giving you the opportunity to make the motion. Okay, so no, make a motion? Yes, yes, sir. All right, please call the roll.
On the motion to amend and release A6236, Assemblyman Peterson,
No.
Assemblyman McClellan,
No.
Assemblyman Minichia,
This bill is blatantly unconstitutional under the federal supremacy clause, and the only way that it would pass muster is because the carve-out is so huge that it renders it impotent. No.
Assemblyman Singh,
Yes.
Assemblyman Rodriguez,
Yes.
Assemblyman Marenko,
Assemblyman Knocker is correct. We should have those that go even further. Yes.
Assemblywoman Majulis,
Before I cast my vote, I just want to say as the only female on this committee, the idea that you think that this is to intimidate law enforcement is just absolutely, absolutely amusing to me. As having men with no identification run up to someone without understanding their immigration status, their legal status, and to think that that would not be intimidating to a U.S. citizen, to a female, to anyone who is just walking down the street it just blows my mind. And I think that there are concerns about the supremacy clause, but I also think we need to send a message that we are not okay with what is happening in our neighborhoods, in our streets, and to our fellow communities.
No, I served in the U.S. Army for almost 10 years. And, you know, not everybody I served with in the U.S. Army was a citizen. Just think of that. And I've known people who served one or more contracts of the U.S. Army and were thus deported. So sometimes, and that happens under every administration, it happens. But just think of that. This, what we're going through in our country is a dark period of time.
That's right.
How we enforce the laws are just as important as our laws. And I have no problem with our immigration laws. I have no problem enforcing them. How must be within the law. I'm voting yes on the motion, and I'd like to thank the encouragement I received from Eric Peterson's bill.
The bill is released with amendments.
Woo! Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next bill, A6235.
Assembly Bill number 6235 expands the types of